Welcome to the Four Visions Market Podcast, a space built on the principles of integrity and reciprocity. Together, we will engage in thought-provoking conversations about plant medicines, why these plants are coming out of the rainforests, jungles, and mountains after thousands of years, and what it means to be in right relationship with the ancestral wisdom cultures and guardians of these traditions. I'm your host, Mariah Gannessa, founder and director of Four Visions Market. This podcast is the natural evolution in our commitment to providing you, our tribe, with incredible resources to support you on your healing journey through plant medicines. Welcome home. Welcome back, Four Visions family. Thank you so much for tuning in to another beautiful episode of the Four Visions podcast. I'm really excited to introduce our guest today. Jesse Jacoby is the founder of Soul Spire, the Healing Playground, a Biohacking and Purification Center in Sedona, Arizona, and Sebastopol, California. He is a best-selling author of The Raw Cure, Healing Beyond Medicine, and several other books. He works as a detoxification specialist, regeneration expert, combo practitioner, and ozone therapist. Jesse is a loving father who spends time with his children, adventuring in the redwood forests, running the trails in state parks, researching, writing, and creating high-frequency meals in the kitchen. I just want to give a warm welcome to you, Jesse. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you and to have this opportunity to connect. So thank you, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Well, let's get started. I would love to ask you a question that can kind of serve as a deeper introduction to who you are and what you stand for. So this one kind of came to me as I was prepping for this conversation, and I wanted to ask you what your definition of health is.
Yeah, that can be broad. My definition of health would be feeling good in your body and being mindful of what we eat has an effect and impact on the world around us, and being agile. Not, what that would mean is not being decrepit or being frequently sick, and living and operating at a higher frequency.
I love that. And so many of us who listen to this podcast and are part of the Four Visions community are always striving for better health, optimum vitality, and it's one of the fundamental pillars that draws people to the healing path and to specifically the work with the plant medicines and the ancestral plant kingdom. What is your experience with the plant kingdom, and how has it informed the path that your life has taken?
Well, starting with primarily with my diet, I have been eating plant-based for about 13 years now. And when I eat, my intention is to acquire the consciousness from the food that I'm ingesting. And so in regard to the plant kingdom or plant kingdom, I am primarily utilizing the fuel from these plants to enhance my consciousness and to expand my awareness. So right away, getting into the dietary aspect of working with plants, that's something I've been working with for quite a while.
Mhm.
And then in regard to plant medicines, realizing that everything that we love and everything that nurtures us, I consider medicine. And I think what we see a lot of today is there's been almost an interception of this whole what we apply to medicine, where people think pills and drugs are considered medicine, and they're abusing them. And we're getting less and less of the real medicine.
Mhm.
And my approach and what I encourage is to revert back to utilizing plants as medicine and abstaining from the synthetic, from the harmful drugs that we've applied this term medicine to.
Mhm.
So I have a lot of experience with plant medicines in regard to ceremonial medicines, and these have really helped me a lot to expand my intellect and to really be able to refine my messages and my writings and also helped me to navigate a lot of circumstances throughout my life that I believe I may not have been able to really get through without utilizing these ceremonies and being in these communities that are also aware and have expanded consciousness.
Mhm. Thank you. I love that. And I think it's so beautiful when ritual and this place of ceremony comes into our lives because we're so deeply craving that and needing that as a society and collective consciousness. We've lost that connection to the ritualization of the sacred and the celebration of the prayer of life. Yeah, it's so beautiful the ways in which the entheogens and visionary plants have woven your relationship with the plant kingdom through your studies with diet and purification and detoxification, and it's all makes so much sense. And we've known each other for some years now, and it's beautiful to connect with you here in this moment and this conversation to just see how everything weaves together and how everything does always come full circle.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. It's nice to be here with you and to see where we've evolved on our path and our journey, which
Mhm.
really was similar in ways with being introduced through plant medicine, really.
Mhm.
And then, seeing how your journey has gone with Four Visions and where I'm going with Soul Spire and the Rock here and having families now. And
Mhm. It's beautiful. So this concept of purification and this concept of awareness of all the different ways in which we are filling our bodies and our environments with chemicals and toxicity. Could you share a little bit about this and how this kind of led you down this process of detoxification, purification, and all of the beautiful tools that you have in your toolbox to up level our vibrations, and just share a little bit about what took you there.
my brother, my blood brother, was he was basically involved with psychotropic drugs, and they were court mandated from a young age on. From him, he was about 13 until 22, and he committed suicide at 22. And that motivated me to want to find natural remedies for reversing what is considered mental illness.
Mhm,
And that brought me down this path of finding plant-based nutrition and realizing what compounds we're ingesting that are associated with cognitive decline and behavioral disorders and what they call schizo conditions, depression, and mental illness. And when I started to realize that a lot of what we're eating in a standard diet, a standard American diet especially, is contributing to this decline, that was when I started to change my diet and my approach. And I ultimately shifted to eating plant based, but also in a mindful way, not in a mainstream way, because I do see a lot of people who are following a mainstream plant based diet and doing meat replacements and alternatives and a lot of processed food. They're they're really getting into more ingredients and additives that are also contributing to the decline. And so really what I shifted to was eating for consciousness, as I spoke about before, and making sure when I'm eating, what I'm ingesting is of the highest radiant frequency.
mhm,
And, so I went from eating plant-based to also, hey, a lot of people don't know about this. And so I started working with a lot of clients holistic health. I wrote my first book about all of this. And the goal with the first book, The Raw Cure, was to even just change one life and, you know, be able to present information for one family to not have to go through what our family did.
mhm,
And ultimately, this turned into thousands of families being helped and changing their lives and reaching out. And I would say that was the beginning of what led me to this path. And over the years, that's evolved further and further into really dissecting the science and the biology and the chemistry of what happens in the body when we eat certain ways and certain foods. And
Thank you for sharing that. It's a powerful why that has led you on this journey and the source of your inspiration. So, this concept of purification and elevation of what we're putting into our body, can you share a little bit about how it affects the spiritual consciousness and kind of make that bridge between the consciousness, the state of consciousness that we're operating in, and why there's a need to purify the vessel? And maybe also share from your own experience as a poet, as a writer, and being connected to, that flow of what it means to be a channel, to receive divine wisdom coming through you, and how you have experienced this purification process as a supportive vehicle to strengthen your connection to spirit.
my perspective is that we have this spirit within us, which in Mayan culture, they would refer to this as Nagi, which is this essence that is within us that directs us in a certain way. And what I see is that this spirit is reflective of light, and we can expand our spirit through our lifestyle, through our diet, through how pure our vessel is, or our spirit can shrink and atrophy. And that happens as there's more corrosion in our body. And what I notice is people who are not mindful of their health and they're ingesting, they're partying and ingesting illicit drugs and they're drinking, a lot of alcohol or eating low quality processed foods, they're building up corrosion or what you would call toxemia, which is an accumulation of toxins that just you continue to acquire them over the course of your lives. And this leads to different symptoms and different diseases and degenerative conditions. And so what's happening then is the spirit has less room to expand in the body. And as we purify and we release the impurities and we clean up the corrosion and we clean up the colon and the vessels that where our blood flows, and primarily clean up our lungs and just really treat every organ in our body sacred. So this idea that every organ is in a unique living organism in our body, and we treat them as being sacred. And
Mhm.
that's a good way to change the approach. And when we start to do this and we start to recognize like all of my organs have individual spirits, they all have personalities and different characteristics, and we start to really treat and honor them in that way, then we give our spirit a chance to grow. We give our spirit room to expand. And what I've noticed over the years with purifying my own vessel and my own body is I started to notice that there's a glow, there's a essence that really becomes more pronounced as I become more pure. And with working with clients over the last decade and longer, I've seen this growth and this expansion in them as well. And so that is what leads me to really believe in this approach. Hey, if you want to expand your spirit and you want to really become more spiritually conscious and aware, and even just more conscious and aware in general, purify your vessel. Start to remove these impurities. Start to really care about your organs, care about every cell in your body.
It really is this honoring of the body as a temple and this devotion to God as we being part of God. And so this state of consciousness and honoring from that place of recognition that we're part of creation, and to treat our bodies and our organs from this place of divine reverence that we would give to the creator in prayer. It's this tremendous shift, and truly it's a path of self-love, and I think that in my own journey with diet, and not just diet, but also just overall choices that I make that affect the health of my body, it has been a wonderful um, vehicle to really see and investigate my relationship with self. And we start to uncover so many of our patterns of self harm through the process of really, placing the body at the altar. And so for me, that process that you've been speaking about has been fundamental in my own healing journey, and really starting to unpack and uncover when I reach for the things that I know don't serve me, and being able to come at it with a level of awareness and desire to investigate the root origin of where those patterns of self-harm are coming from. And this process, for me, the part that has been key is compassion and filling those spaces of emptiness with love. And so I'm curious what you would have to share in that regard, and how you work with the mind with people as they are working with you and in your protocols.
Yeah, really, I think primarily the approach is in simplicity. And my overall intention is to simplify the process of purification. And then the new book, the very first lesson is on the simplicity of purity. We make everything so complex. And really, the approach is simple. And there's the same approach pretty much for everything I see people struggling with. There's a really similar approach to how they can get well. And that comes with purifying, cleansing, nourishing, purifying, and regenerating the body.
Mhm.
And so when you work with that approach, it's really simple to navigate the mind challenges and the mind struggles. A lot of people are so hard on themselves. And with this approach, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe you slipped up and you ate something you did not want to eat, or you did something you did not want to eat. Well, you can just purify that from your body. You can release that from your body and just keep going and not be hard on yourself, and just know that you're on a good path. And knowing that you maybe were not well when we started working together, and now you're on a journey where you're getting well.
Yeah, it is a journey, right? And it's not always linear. And there's so many parallels to how we talk about the spiritual healing journey to how you're talking about a physical healing journey. And it really is one and the same. But ultimately, this level of patience that we have to cultivate along with the discipline, to me, seems to be a fundamental point in the process. And this awareness is required, to be able to enjoy a process of healing, because it shouldn't feel like suffering, right? And so there should be a level of celebration when we choose a path of healing, and a level of gratitude too that comes with the blessing and the opportunity to make better choices, right? So I always like to bring in a little bit of lightness to the process if I'm supporting someone in a spiritual journey of evolution of their thoughts, consciousness, behavior patterns. But so much of the traps that we fall into are the traps of our own mind and our own ego at play, that really, we're so brutal with with ourselves. We're so
Mm.
hard on ourselves. I think that this is a really important thing to just touch on and really honor in this conversation, because it's the shift from the struggle to the joy and the celebration of improvement and self betterment, and really searching for that life of optimum vitality, that life of divine radiance, and the fullest expression of our authentic selves.
Yeah, I agree with that. Great explanation.
So we were talking a little bit before we started recording about this concept of microbial dysbiosis, and I would love to get into that a little bit. And first, I guess I just want to preface, because we were also just talking about the gut and how a lot of the work that you do is cleaning with people's digestive tracts or colons, and their gut. And to me, this was a conversation. This was a topic I really wanted to bring into the conversation, because in the culture of Yahé and in the path that I study with, the gut or the stomach is its own world. It represents a completely different dimension, and that's where the emotions are stored. And so, all of our emotional traumas, impacts, wounds, and all of the thoughts that we have accumulated throughout the course of our lifetime, as well as the many lifetimes before, going all the way back to the principal origin of when our soul first incarnated as a rock or as the water, as a tree, as a plant, back before humans existed, back before we took this human form. The thoughts, the emotions, the emotional frequency lives in our stomach and in our gut. And so in the Yahe, we drink this visionary medicine to purify that and to cleanse the body of all the baggage that we have stored and accumulated with this thought that a lighter backpack is going to be easier to carry up the mountain. And so when we were speaking a little bit beforehand, I felt like this was a really beautiful topic to weave in this physical body, and to hear a little bit of your wisdom and insights into healing the physical gut. Especially because, when we walk this healing journey, the physical and the spiritual and the emotional are all part of the process. We can't ignore one. We have to really take a very all spectrum approach in order to be able to reap the fullest expression of all of these gifts that the healing journey provides to us. So for many people who work with plant medicine, we're already attuned to this process of liberating the emotional stagnancy. And the emotional stagnancy, I think, also is woven into the physical diet, because like we were just talking about, if we're eating or we're eating something either that's not good for us, or we're putting something in our bodies with a bad thought, that energy comes in and is what our cells live off of and what our body feeds off of. So on that note, I really just want to give you the space to introduce this very beautiful, interesting concept of microbial dysbiosis, and then also share, your theory of this cultural dysbiosis that we're witnessing in our society as a result.
Yeah, I'm glad to do that. So dysbiosis, a definition for that would be life in distress. And in the gastroenterology and world of studying the microbiome, which is our entire population of gut bacteria and bacteria living in our body, we actually have three microbiomes, essentially, which is the internal microbiome, the bacteria living within our body. And we have our skin microbiome, which is these trillions of microorganisms that are living outside of our body on our skin. And then we have our oral microbiome, which is the population of microbes living in our mouth, which could also be related to the internal microbiome. And a lot of times when people have gut disorders, and what I'm noticing is pretty much every condition in the body can be related to this, is that there is what is known as microbial dysbiosis or gut dysbiosis, which is your microbes are in distress. So you've created this imbalance within your body because of diet, because of lifestyle habits, because of even drinking bad water, breathing bad air, living in cities where you're not really in a natural environment. There's so many different facets that contribute to what causes this dysbiosis in the gut. And what I've worked with people on through the years is helping to clean up the gut environment and helping to rebalance the microbiome, and then watching these conditions pretty much vanish because of the healing of the gut and the correction of the dysbiosis. So almost taking that life in distress and bringing order back into the body. So from chaos and disorder, you bring calmness and order. And in my writings, what I've elaborated on this whole terminology, applying this only to the gut, and I've realized there's such thing as spiritual dysbiosis. There is such a thing as cultural dysbiosis. And so when someone would have spiritual dysbiosis is when your spirit is in distress. And this is something that you would see. An example would be someone requiring an exorcism because they have some kind of what is considered a demonic entity in their body that they need to release. And a lot of times this is acquired because we are not living in integrity. We are not using our voice. And what I've noticed a lot with plant medicine ceremonies over the years and with my own experiences and with loved ones is seeing that being able to broaden their perspective with these visionary medicines, they then start to use their voice. They start to bring attention and awareness to whatever this is that's creating the spiritual dysbiosis, and they're able to restore the order within their spirit. And, this is something which could be as simple as saying yes to something you really don't want to do. And then you continue to do this over time and you build up this resentment and this feeling of being inadequate. And then you start to develop what we could label as spiritual dysbiosis. And then I've elaborated further getting into cultural dysbiosis. And this is when your culture is in distress. Your culture is your way of life. And this is, I could consider all of Western culture as being in a way distressed because of these artificial concepts that are introduced. And I recall one time I was sitting at a table with a group of friends from all over the world, and I was the only one from America. And they were talking about their culture and all these unique and fancy ways. And my friend from Slovakia, he says, "So Jesse, tell me about American culture." And he already knows my position on things. And I think in a way he was being comical. And I said, "Oh, American culture. Well, video games and alcohol and sports and pills. And, there's so many things that our culture has been hijacked with that are in industry products and these concepts that are sold to us through propaganda. And what this is doing is creating distress within our culture. We no longer have a culture that is functioning or thriving in a way that provides a healthy environment for all people who are included in this way of life. So to then reverse these conditions of cultural dysbiosis, well, we can say, "Oh, well, why don't we remove these artificial concepts?" That is a great start. And I remember, getting rid of my television set 20 years ago was such a big move for me because none of that stuff that was on the news and none of the stuff that people are allowing themselves to get so distracted with that we could call weapons of mass distraction. We no longer have to deal with that because it's not part of our life anymore. And even something as simple as getting rid of my microwave in the kitchen 15, 20 years ago, that made a huge difference because now I'm not zapping the radiant frequency out of my food. And I'm not taking these packaged products that you throw in the microwave and actually introducing those into my gut. I'm erasing that. So there's things, there's a way we could just remove these artificial concepts, but another approach is to start to reintroduce these native ways. And this is something that a lot of people are becoming more familiar with, is this concept of re-indigenization, where we're able to bring back the indigenous ways, bring back tribe and family and these rituals and, loving connection and people actually connecting in a space of love rather than using drugs or alcohol or whatever else is almost becoming a necessity for people to even socialize these days. So, and that's where I feel plant medicines can come in as well, because the community aspect of ceremony and getting together and making food together and praying together and singing together and, just sharing your soul and your spirit and your nagi or your essence with others is a really helpful component for bringing order back to culture, reinventing culture, introducing this new concept of culture.
Beautiful. I love that. And I feel like it's such a exciting time for us to be alive and to play a part in this recuperation of what it means to be human and be alive and to be in community. And there's so many beautiful elements to what you shared that really just fill me with hope, right? And of course, it's easy to feel the heaviness of all of the noise that is all around us and all the distractions, like you mentioned. And it's easy to get into that place, which leads to despair. But I personally choose to devote my life and spend my life focusing on all the beauty that is coming and that is here for us and within our reach. And to really be driven by this question of what is the world that I want to leave for my children, and what is the world that we want to leave for the next generations to come. And I do believe it's going to look a lot different when we leave this earth than how we came in, and in a good way, too. It's beautiful to watch so many young people who are waking up and choosing to leave the, conditioned pathways that have been cultivated and pressured upon us for many many generations, and choosing to walk away from that story and choosing to feed and create a new story and a new prayer of what it means to be alive and what it means to give honor to this gift and this blessing of being incarnate here right now in this body, in this earth. And I do really give thanks to nature for being that steadfast pillar that has been here, carrying us through all of the different phases of the consciousness of humanity, right? And I think about the rock people and the stone people, the trees that have witnessed and just been waiting for hundreds of years for humanity to return home to the heart, back to this place of remembrance. And I really like to think that Mother Nature is happy to see so many beautiful people remembering and spending time honoring the waters and walking in the nature, and really just spending time in communion. And of course there's so much left for us to do, not to belittle how much is ahead of us, but there is this beautiful evolution taking place at this time. And really just hearing you speak to it really does fill me with hope, because there's so much beauty to come, and there's so much beauty that we are in the process of remembering and recovering. My grandfather, actually, he just passed a few weeks ago, and it brought up a lot for me as I really was spending time with him and his wife, and in his last months, and my grandmother, and really just kind of acknowledging the life that they lived and the what they had access to, and really just witnessing what they made of the life that was given to them, and to look at that and look at the life that was given to me. And it really just puts things in so much perspective, and really gives a lot of awareness to how far we have come, and the blessings that are being given to the ones that are coming of age at this time, and the ones that are living and breathing this new prayer into existence, or returning to this ancient prayer. So it's a really beautiful thing to witness. And I love these conversations that I get to have with people on the podcast, because each one is filled with so many gems of wisdom and insight and hope and inspiration. And so it's a really beautiful thing to be walking this path in this way.
It is often said that for those who work with plant medicines, 50% of the spiritual transformation takes place during the ceremony, and the other 50% takes place during the process of integration that follows. Navigating the process of translating the healing you received from the plants into embodied wisdom is not as easy as one might think, and many people often struggle to see this change and transformation take place. Last fall, 4 Visions launched our flagship plant medicine integration program, We poured our combined decades of experience working with plant medicines into creating the curriculum that we wish we had years ago when struggling to navigate the profound realms of translating, applying, and embodying the profound wisdom that the plants and fungi give us. Integration work is the action taking and the grounding into the fibers of our beings, the ancestral and cosmic wisdom that the plants give us. It is the manifestation of every vision. When we do it well, it becomes the true ceremony, the ceremony of life. Since we launched last October, we've had over 30 people go through the program. We have received incredible feedback that we have taken to heart and have since decided to revamp the program based off of the needs and input of past participants and the Four Visions community at large. Some exciting updates and changes to our integration program include more accessible pricing, payment plans. We redesigned the program to make it much more customizable, to be able to create and design the experience that you are needing and wanting. The ability to work at your own pace with immediate access to all educational content, added course modules, additional faculty and resources to better support your studies, a more streamlined experience making it easy to navigate and absorb the material, discounted pricing for participants on our entire apothecary with guidance to be able to source the plant allies that will be most conducive to your integration journey. We just relaunched the program, and now until the end of April, we're offering 25% off all 3 paths. Discount is automatically applied at checkout. Go to fourvisionsintegration.com to learn more and to sign up. Now back to today's episode.
Yeah, what comes to mind hearing you speak about generations is the concept of generational regeneration. And what I've written about is generational degeneration, where what we've witnessed the last few generations with the expansion of industry is the degeneration of each generation incoming, because we're inheriting and acquiring the habits of our predecessors and our parents and grandparents, and we see them getting sick, and then our parents getting the same sickness, and then we call this genetic. And really what it is the lifestyle that we're adapting and the patterns that we're basically recreating and we're weaving into our own fibers and into our own lives. And what I'm encouraging is, rather than having generational degeneration, is having generational regeneration, where we can heal our lineal epigenetic trauma, and whatever this is that was passed on to us that we've acquired, we correct the imbalances, and then we pass that on to our children. And so that's my approach with parenting and with my children, is not to basically, where my confusion was in my life and where I noticed my parents having incongruencies, I'm aware of this and where I was wrong and where they may have been wrong in ways. And now my awareness shifts to, how can I assure that I will not pass that on to my children? How can I break these patterns? How can I pave a path for them so that at least they formulate their own way without my influence, without me kind of pushing some kind of even though I may not know it, something that might be harming them on their path, rather than showing them what they're going to see, leading them to the path and allowing them to see for themselves, but doing it in a way where they're eating clean and they're not exposed to a lot of what I was exposed to. And so it's like, how can we be regenerative with our love for them?
Mm-hmm. Yes, the path of parenthood offers us this beautiful mirror into everything that makes us who we are, and everything that we want for our children is the driving force that really has inspired me to grow, and I'm so grateful to my child for being that for me and being my greatest teacher. And It's just the most incredible gift. And yeah, getting to gift them a childhood that we only dreamed of, right? And really passing on this legacy in that way, it's a tremendous honor. And also, like you said, recognizing that they're sovereign beings, and we can, create a safe space for them to thrive and expand and grow and become who they are meant to be. But we do not have uh, the ability to decide what that is. And that became really clear to me when I was holding my infant son in my arms and realizing that he was dependent on me for life and, nourishing himself from my milk, but at the same time, he was his own being. And there was nothing that I could do that could make him become anything else than his own being. And it was a really radical moment of just recognizing that I had so much responsibility to care for this being and to ensure that they were safe and healthy and protected. But that's all I could do, be a companion and accompany him on his journey and carry him with me, and pray that his connection to spirit, that his connection to source and his origin always be strong and fortified, and support him with his relationship to nature. And one of the big things for me as a parent actually is helping him to create his relationship to the all-pervading mother, father, and having enough security in his bond with me as his mother, but also knowing that his mother is so much more than me. And so that has been quite evolutionary for me in my own lineage and how I was raised, and just continues to provide such beautiful gifts of wisdom and understanding, and inform all of my actions and choices as a parent and as a guardian. And these angels, these spirits that are coming into body at this time, they're so light filled, they're so bright, and their vibration is so high. And so really just honoring that and taking that as a great responsibility, like to ensure that they get to live that full expression, that we don't put anything in their path that would damper that expression. And it's a huge responsibility, one that I would never have even been able to comprehend before becoming a parent.
Yes, beautiful. And having patience with their process. I can
Mm.
recall a time with Arlo, my son, where it was winter and I was barefoot in Illinois and Chicago, which it gets really cold. And I just don't like to wear shoes. I like to feel the frequency and the voltage from the earth on my feet. And I was in a mode where I was like, okay, let's kind of be quick on this hike because I'm cold, my feet are cold. And he found some ice in the pond and he's taking a stick and he's hitting the ice and letting it break. And as much as I wanted to be like, Arlo, come on, I'm cold. I was like, he's in this moment, he's learning something. There's something coming through him. And that was the message that came to me, was okay, you just let him be and let him do his thing. And that patience, that allowance for him to just be able to navigate and explore and learn was so much more important than the temperature in my body and my discomfort with my feet being cold. And I think, if more people had that approach where we kind of just let them be and not really get in their way, but just be protective and make sure they're safe and keep an eye on them, that can really change a lot. And just for their development and their overall well-being.
Yes, it's this beautiful gift of witnessing and creating that space and container of safety, and allowing our children to flourish and become who they're meant to be, and just honor that and really just be a witness to that. There's not parenting is more about allowing, I think, than doing. And it's really where that it becomes a spiritual practice.
And not directing our confusion toward them. and
Mm.
really being a source of calmness for them. There's so much chaos in the world already, and if we can be that source for them, or they know we're calming, they'll always come back to us. I'm feeling a lot of chaos. I want that I need that calm energy, or I want mom for that calm energy. And I recall that with my father is that he definitely had a lot going on, and there were times when he even had anger, but he never directed it toward me. And I always
Mm.
appreciate that thinking back. It's like I would see him get angry, and I would see him demonstrating confusion regarding certain situations, but he would keep it separate from our relationship. And that
Mhm.
helped me a lot in my ascension and in my path. So I want to continue to at least take that trait and pass that on and carry that with my kids. It's like if something's going on in my life that is circulating around some kind of disharmony, that's not my children's responsibility, or is it something that they even need to be exposed to? And so coming back to the calmness and the mindfulness.
Yeah. So you became a parent very young and had this process of finding yourself and discovering your purpose and path in congruence with caring for another being and then two beings. Tell us a little bit about how Soul Spire came into being and how your work has been inspired and influenced by your journey.
Well, Soul Spire was a collective of a lot of the different things that I have learned and acquired with skill sets over the course of my life. And I started I guess at the time I would refer to as a career in fitness. And I did my internship in Boca Raton, Florida, and I worked at a place called the Institute of Human Performance and worked with a lot of professional athletes. And that was my foundation, was fitness and taking care of the body and on a physical level. And that shifted into plant-based nutrition. And then I ended up writing the book about it, which is The Raw Cure. And now I have the second edition of that was just released. And the path I went from there was I moved to California from Florida, and I was introduced to the redwood trees. And that was, I think, the beginning step of this new life for me when I met those trees. And I developed this connection with with earth, with the elements, and that was something that was really new to me. And I ended up working at a raw vegan culinary school. So I started working with food preparation, and that was on the coast in Mendocino. And what Soul Spire is a combination of the food prep, learning how to create these meals using high quality ingredients, incorporating the fitness and the movement, incorporating the nature, and then the internal cleansing. And internal cleansing is something I did my first colonic 20 years ago. And I realized that our health and our vitality is dependent on the cleanliness of our colon. So the cleaner our colon is, the cleaner our internal terrain, the more vibrant we are, the less chances we have, the less prone we are to developing sickness and becoming ill in any way. And so what Soulspire, the healing playground is the incorporation of all of those pieces into one program, which is an educational program and really a center for people to come in and spend a couple days, a few days, a week, a couple weeks. I've even had people stay for up to a month, and they come in and they cleanse, they purify, they flush out their colon. They work with oxygen treatments and ozone treatments to get their lungs back, and doing hot cold contrast therapy and working with Rife frequency, which is a technology that basically working with frequency, but you could also label this as working with energy and applying different energies to your body to help kind of break through where you might have an energetic blockage. And then working with vibration and voltage for healing. And so every cell in our body requires a negative 25 millivolt charge. And as we get sick, that number decreases. Well, as the number decreases, we start to get ill and our organs start to malfunction. And every cancerous cell is detected at a plus 30 millivolt charge. So the lower, so like when you get into the negatives is when it's actually a better number. So the negative voltage is better. The positive is when it's starting to get into that area of danger. And so by applying voltage to the body, we can increase the cellular voltage. And if you have pain in any area of your body, or you feel like there's something internal, if your organs are not, you have some kind of an issue with an organ, you apply voltage, you increase the voltage in that, what you would refer to as a battery pack. All of our organs can be considered battery packs, and they require a certain charge, right? Kind of like a solar battery. You have a solar battery, you need to recharge that every day. Well, if you're involved in activities that are depleting your voltage, you're going to have a low battery pack. And so I work a lot with voltage, with pulse electromagnetic field therapy, sending voltage back into these, what you would call battery packs, so that we're always operating at a high charge. So Soul Spire is really, it's a combination of all of the different lessons that I've acquired over the years. And I formulated that into an approach where people can come and they can heal and they can work with these different modalities and improve their health and their overall quality of life.
Beautiful. It's so interesting. And just hearing about the vibration and voltage therapy is very, very intriguing to me, and kind of ties it back to what we were speaking to at the beginning with just all of our organs having their own, I think you said personality, but really just having their own frequency and caring for each of our organs, and nourishing and having a relationship with each of our organs. That's a really cool way to experience the journey of health and healing. Can you share a little bit more about the ozone therapy that you do with your clients?
Sure. Yeah. So ozone is it's actually a gas, and it's a universal purifier. So when people talk about the ozone layer and the ozone levels being high in the atmosphere, what that really means is that the hydrocarbon levels are high, and that's our level of pollution, the gases that are being emitted from industry, from manufactured culture. And so naturally the atmosphere releases ozone to clean up the pollutants. And if we run ozone in our home, we can, if there's mold or there's mildew or there's anything in the air that you want to remove, you can run ozone with an ozone generator, and that will clean up the air in your home. You would want to do that when you're not home. You would run the ozone generator in a room before you leave, and then by the time you get back, it will have cleared and dissipated, and the air will be cleaner, and there will be a better smell in a home. So that's something that is pretty well known, people who are familiar with ozone. But then if you are to take ozone internally, because you might have something pathogenic in your blood or viral in your blood, this is something that actually works internally as well. Just like ozone is used as a purifying agent in the atmosphere and within our home, well, within our own body, we can utilize ozone as well. And this is something that Nikola Tesla worked with, and he was, I think, one of the first inventors of the ozone generators, maybe the inventor. But he definitely did work with ozone because he wanted to not only provide universal energy for everyone, but also universal healthcare that was low cost. And ozone is a treatment that is low cost and is actually very effective. And so there's ozone insufflation, where you can take ozone in your ears. It would be called an auricular insufflation. And you put in what looks like a stethoscope into your ears, and you are basically able to receive ozone that way. And that's really good for people who are experiencing brain fog or having any kind of issues with their sinuses. And I like to actually implement this myself every time I travel or I'm in an airport, right? I'm flying, I'm around a lot of people and breathing in a lot of people's exhalations on a plane, the carbonic acid that's in the air. I like to clear with ozone. There's another attachment called the nasal insufflation. So there's a piece that looks like a vaporizer, and it's glass and it goes in the nostril, and you allow the ozone to go up your nostril into your nasal cavity, through your sinus cavity, and that can clean up all of that in there. So if you have a sinus infection or anything going on with your sinuses, you could implement nasal ozone insufflation to help clear that. And then there's also a rectal attachment and there's a vaginal attachment, to clean up in that area. And ozone has a lot of benefits. And there's also a way to get intravenous ozone. And there's a lot of clinics now that are offering intravenous ozone treatments where you can get an IV direct where ozone is basically administered into your bloodstream.
Mhm.
And that's especially effective for regenerating the blood, for stimulating production of what's known as heme oxygenase enzyme, which is an enzyme that helps prevent blood clots and strokes. And this is pretty much just if you have sluggishness in your blood or your blood is sticky and thick, it helps to make the blood more visceral and thins the blood. And there's evidence of a boost in production of nitric oxide from ozone, which is also a good blood builder, and your antioxidant defense enzymes, primarily cytochrome P450 enzyme, which is the enzyme primarily responsible for detoxifying residues from pills and food chemicals and the chemicals that are in water. And so it's not even just that the ozone is doing this for us. The ozone is actually cleaning up the internal environment so that our natural detoxification mechanisms within our body can start to work again, because there's so
Mm.
many different, I would call them weapons, that are being added to the water and the air and the food that are known cytochrome enzyme inhibitors, that are known inhibitors of catalase enzymes and superoxide dismutase enzymes and all of these different enzymes that we require for detoxification. So you hear in Western medical literature that the detoxification is pseudoscience because the body naturally detoxifies itself. But then you look at some of these additives that are in the pills that are being prescribed and in the water, and they're known enzyme inhibitors of the enzymes that are required for our body to actually be able to detoxify without assistance. So a lot of these things that I introduce are really there to help clean up the internal environment so that our body can function naturally and be able to eliminate the things that are introduced that are foreign and should not be there. Something we would call a xenobiotic, a foreign antigen.
Thank you so much. That's an amazing explanation. Probably one of the best I've heard of ozone therapy. And you provide all of the different versions of ozone therapy at Soul Spire?
Yeah, Soul Spire has a lot of different options for the ozone, and also an ozone steam sauna, which is a
Oh, cool.
sauna cabinet that you sit inside of and your head is out so you're not breathing, and there's a towel around your neck here,
Mhm.
and you receive ozone all over your body. So your body is immersed in ozone while you're heated. So your pores are open, you're sweating, and you're ozonating all of your skin. And when you get out of there, I always feel like a snake because I've shed a layer of skin. And I
Mhm.
give people white towels and they dry off, and you see the towels, a lot of times they turn yellow from
Wow.
all of the impurities that come out of the body.
Mhm.
But yeah, you definitely see some dark color on a lot of the towels. And then your skin feels so soft and supple after.
Wow, amazing. Super cool. Thank you for sharing all of that. We actually also offer ozone therapy at our retreat center in Colombia, Taito Juanitos Center on Biwasi. And it's been such an incredible complement to the work with the medicines that we offer there. Taito Juanito is very interesting because he is super intrigued by, all of the different tools that alternative medicines provide in complement to ancestral therapies. And one of the teachings of the Yahe culture is to learn how to work with the breath of life and the acknowledgement that we come from this one breath, this one source of prana, of life, and that the more that we learn to live in that place of connection with this breath, this force of life, that's where our inspiration and our communion with creation comes from. So it's been a really beautiful journey for us, integrating the esoteric with this very applicable therapy that is incredibly healing, as you've been sharing, and supportive to our overall well-being, and literally healing our physical body and our physical blood, but also the spiritual blood, and really being able to breathe life into our spiritual cells, and this concept of oxygenating cells that are starving of that force, that prana, that breath of life. It's a really beautiful thing to experience and to witness in other people, as well as when they're deep in their own healing journey with the medicines and with the other therapies that we provide. So it's wonderful to hear that this is included in your offering, and really just want to invite anyone who is on a healing journey to check out Soul Spire and look into the possibility of visiting Jesse and receiving all of these beautiful offerings and protocols that you provide. It's an incredible opportunity and service that you're giving to many people. So I want to thank you so much for creating that space of healing and holding that vision and prayer for us stepping into our optimum vitality and remembering what that feels like and looks like.
I received that with a lot of gratitude. And I work with the breath of life also. Like, I definitely encourage and emphasize the importance of breath in my writings and teachings. And when clients come in, I do have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber that is a steel chamber for people to lay in and receive direct, pure oxygen. There's a new form of strength training that not many people are aware of yet, and this is called abbreviated IMST, and it's inspiratory muscle strength training. And they have these breath trainer devices now. They almost look like little pipes, and you breathe in and you breathe out through them, and you can change the level of resistance for the inhale and the exhalation. So the idea is that you're breathing in with resistance and breathing out with resistance to strengthen your inspiratory muscles and your diaphragm. And so I've been working with that for a while, and also really just emphasizing the importance of your exhalation, being forceful with your exhalations when you want to release things from your body. We can essentially purify our blood through our breath. Every time we inhale that oxygen that we breathe in, whatever part of our blood that's reaching, we're converting impurities to gases, and then those gases are being released in our exhalation. So essentially, if we're feeling like sick or we have something in our body, and we're inhaling in an area where the air is pure, we want to get out in nature somewhere where there's trees and there's a lot of negative ions in the air, specifically near waterfalls or where there are ferns that are thriving. The air is generally pure in those areas. The negative ion content is high. So breathing in there and being forceful with your exhalation and really emphasizing the release of these gaseous impurities, primarily carbonic acid from, and especially right now in wintertime when people are in their homes for the majority of the day, and they're breathing in their exhalations. They're breathing in a lot of carbonic acid, a lot of the gases from the heat sources that they're using. And this is creating congestion in the lungs. And so getting outside, breathing in pure air, being forceful with your exhalations, you can release a lot. And a great example, and what I speak of a lot, is a coyote, right? Is a very difficult animal for people who trap animals, for them to hunt and to kill, because when put poison out and the coyote ingests poison, they have this natural innate ability to know they've been poisoned. And so immediately what they start doing is they just take off sprinting, and they'll just run and run and run until they release all of the poison from their body. Because what they're doing when they're running is they're panting.
Mm-hmm.
So every time they're exhaling, they're releasing the poison in the form of gas, and eventually they just run it out of their system and they survive.
Wow.
And we see this in, not that I've ever been a fan of rodeos or anything like that, but in this act, or maybe some people call this a sport, where they have rodeos, you see a bull and the bull gets mad, and when the bull is mad, the bull is exhaling out of the nose, and every time they exhale they get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to utilize that when I'm running and I'm doing my training in the redwood forest and on the trails, and I really get into running sprints, and just like every time I start to feel like I might be winded, I get forceful with my exhalation. And what happens then is I notice I get more energy, and I get my energy back, and I'm not winded anymore. So we can really use our breath to our advantage in a lot of ways. And that reverts back to the breath of life, and just breathing in this essence, breathing in this God force every time we inhale, and then letting out the stagnation every time we exhale, letting out those impurities.
We are kind of nearing our end. I wanted to give a shout out to the Raw Cured 2.0 and give you a little bit of space to talk about your newest book release. And we'll definitely include the links in our show notes. But tell us a little bit about this recent project.
Yeah, the Raw Cure 2.0, Healing Beyond Medicine, how to nourish, purify, and regenerate your body to prevent and reverse sickness and disease. This is a book that really has been in the works for 12 years, because I published the first edition 12 years ago. I was 26 years old. I was young. The book became a bestseller. I really was not expecting that at the time. And people still buy the book. And over these last 12 years, I've learned so much, and I've developed and matured a lot as a human and as a writer. And all of the experiences that I've gained and the research that I've done and working with people hands-on directly, I've been able to revise a lot of the contents within that book and formulate a new approach. And so this book is divided up into 26 lessons, and this is all about having the 7 steps to regeneration, learning about 14 ways we're creating sickness for ourselves, and then also presenting simplistic approaches to preventing and even sometimes reversing a lot of the common chronic conditions and degenerative diseases that are afflicting mankind. And so this book is really just presenting factual information that is life-changing, and where anyone who is struggling to find good health or gain their health back or regenerate their body, they could really learn a lot from reading this book and start to implement those into their own lives in a way that helps them to become just overall healthier people.
Beautiful. Well, I know this will be an incredible resource for anyone who is tuning into this conversation and feels inspired to go deeper on their journey of physical health and healing. So thank you for offering that to the world, and I'm excited to read it. So we are really happy to have had this opportunity to highlight your work and your path with our community and get to drop in for this conversation. Do you feel called to share a poem with us before we close?
Yeah, I could. I don't have any in my head. I could pull one up.
Hmm.
Did you have one in mind?
No, no,
Yeah,
whatever you feel called to share with us. It's a nice way to close.
this is actually a writing that I I had channeled through in a ceremony about 12 years ago in Sedona. And the title of this song is Enlightened by Gaia. Pachamama, climb deep into my soul. Bring your plant medicines and let them serenade through my veins. attack the uncertainties, cripple the doubts, shatter the stress that eats away my well-being. Penetrate me with vengeance and force me to awaken my spirit that is life force. Breathe into my lungs air from your inner core. Oxygenate me with your purity. Detoxify my blood. Caress my lymphatic vessels. Bless me with your angelic melodies and embed your lessons deep into my foundation so I will never again question my connection to your roots. Let me speak my truth and equip me with values that cannot be denied. Drown me in your rivers of knowledge. Give me strength in my voice so I can utilize my vocals to teach this society that is sleeping through extinctions and dumbed down by fluoridated lies and pharmaceuticals that there is more to life than the American dream. Help me enlighten us all to put the dollar aside, awaken our conscience, and better understand our purpose. Empower us to drop the bottle and catch some truth. Lead us to the fountains of Peruvian power so we can drink awareness and escape the corporate media's noose. Unite me with the Black Jaguar spirit and tell him to look into my soul and prepare me for all I ever need to know. Let me bleed world peace. Use the tears that fall free from my soul to nourish your cells. Permit the mycelium to drink from my being. Urge the microorganisms to feast on my footprints. Fill your needs for my undying disease I know as love, love, love. Teach me how to love without conditions. Embrace me with your wizardly wisdom. Captivate me with all of the things money cannot buy. Saturate me with honesty. Do not ever let me forget the many facets of your beauty that go beyond your stunning face and striking features. Awaken me with love. Love me so deep I find ways to alkalize the acidifying oceans. Suffuse us all with the solutions we need to repopulate the canopy of the Amazon region. Nurture me with your warmth that emanates from purity. Bless me with your elixirs that fix me as I feed from your never-ending passions. Bulletproof my temple so this energy will always last. Love me in ways that stimulate my imagination. Open me up to your forest so I will never be lost again. So that was one that is published in my 5th book, which is titled Gaia Speaks. And that's a piece of poetry that is woven into the pages of that book.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Well, sending blessings to all who have tuned in for this conversation, and deep blessings to you, Jesse, on your journey and your path. May you be protected and feel the love of the Creator shining down upon you every day. Thank you for this time.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an honor to be here.
On behalf of the Four Visions family, we want to thank you for listening to our podcast. We hope you have enjoyed this conversation and have gained seeds of wisdom that will nourish your spiritual path. If you have a moment, please leave us a review, as this helps us to reach more people. For more resources and information about the plant path, and for the highest quality spiritual tools and botanicals, please visit us at fourvisions.com. We are grateful for your support and look forward to continuing this journey with you all. Until next time.